Imagine a life where peace isn't a fleeting moment but a steady rhythm. What if the struggles you face, the questions that keep you up at night, aren't signs of failure but whispers guiding you to something deeper? C.S. Lewis, the great mind behind the Chronicles of Narnia and one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century, once said, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." These words carry a secret, one that has the power to transform the way we live and think. Now, close your eyes for a moment. Picture the chaos of everyday life, the unanswered emails, the strained relationships, the relentless stream of worries about the future. It's overwhelming, isn't it? Yet, amid this noise, Lewis believed there was a way to find stillness. A path to inner peace that doesn't ignore the hardships but embraces them, using them as tools to shape a life of profound meaning and quiet strength. Think about this. Why do so many of us chase peace like it's a prize to win? Yet it slips through our fingers. We buy books, attend seminars, scroll through endless advice, but the stillness we crave remains just out of reach. C.S. Lewis saw this chase for what it truly is: a misunderstanding of what peace really means. He believed peace isn't found in the absence of conflict, but in the presence of something greater, something eternal. And here's the beauty of it: this peace isn't reserved for philosophers or saints. It's for anyone willing to pause and listen, to reflect on truths that have stood the test of time. In this video, we'll journey into 5 of Lewis' most profound insights, principles that reveal the secret to cultivating this peace in your own life. These aren't abstract theories or unattainable ideals, they're practical steps, illuminated by Lewis' wisdom, that can guide you through the storms of life and help you rediscover your center. Are you ready to uncover these timeless secrets together? We'll explore the heart of what it means to live with purpose and find the kind of peace that sustains not despite the chaos, but because of it. Here is Principle 1. True peace begins when we let go of the illusion of control. Lewis often wrote about humanity's tendency to grasp at control, believing we can shape the world to fit our desires. He compared it to a child building sandcastles at the edge of the tide, blissfully unaware of the waves about to wash them away. How often do we do the same? We micromanage every detail, cling to plans, and grow anxious when things don't unfold as we envisioned. Take a moment to reflect. How many times has life surprised you? The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the sudden turn of events you never saw coming. In the moment, it feels like chaos, like failure. But what if these disruptions aren't mistakes, but the universe, or, as Lewis would say, God inviting us to trust in something greater than ourselves? Consider this. During World War II, Lewis gave a series of radio talks to a nation reeling from loss and uncertainty. He reminded listeners that the human heart wasn't made to carry the weight of the world. Relying on God has to begin all over again every day, he said. As if nothing had yet been done. It's a startling truth. Peace doesn't come from fixing everything around us, but from surrendering to the idea that we never truly controlled it in the first place. Imagine a captain steering a ship through a storm. The waves are fierce, the wind unforgiving. He can't command the sea to calm or the wind to stop. But he can adjust his sails, navigate wisely, and trust the map. That's what Lewis invites us to do: let go of the need to control the storm and focus on steering the ship. And it's not just about faith. This principle is reflected in countless lives. Think of Thomas Edison, whose laboratory burned down in 1914. Decades of work were lost in a single night. Watching the flames, he reportedly said, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew." Edison didn't control the fire, but he controlled his response, finding peace and surrender and purpose in starting over. Here is principle number 2. Inner peace grows when we align our desires with what truly matters. Lewis believed much of our restlessness comes from chasing the wrong things. We long for wealth, status, approval, but none of these satisfy the soul. In Mere Christianity, he wrote, "If I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world." This isn't just philosophical musing, it's deeply practical. How often do we pursue fleeting goals, only to feel empty once we achieve them? Consider the story of King Solomon from history. Known for his immense wisdom and wealth, Solomon had everything a person could dream of: power, riches, countless accomplishments. Yet, in the book of Ecclesiastes, he called it all meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Why? Because none of it filled the deeper void in his heart. Lewis argued that peace begins when we reorient our lives toward eternal truths: love, kindness, connection, purpose. These are the treasures that don't fade with time. Think about moments in your own life when you felt truly at peace. Was it during a promotion or a moment shared with someone you love? Was it in acquiring something new or giving something away? Here's a modern example. Many people idolize success, assuming that achieving their dream career or lifestyle will bring lasting happiness. But studies show otherwise. One well-known research project followed lottery winners years after their big wins. While they experienced temporary joy, most reported returning to their baseline levels of happiness. Why? Because external gains don't address internal needs. Lewis' insight here is radical. The things we desire most often point us beyond themselves. When we chase wealth, what we're really seeking is security. When we long for approval, we're searching for belonging. By shifting our focus from the surface to the source, we unlock the kind of peace that circumstances can't take away. Here is principle number 3: true peace comes from living in the present. C.S. Lewis believed that much of our inner turmoil stems from our inability to be fully present in the moment. In the Screwtape Letters, a fictional dialogue between a senior demon and his apprentice, Lewis writes that one of the devil's greatest strategies is to keep humans fixated on either the past or the future, never the present. Why? Because the present is where life happens. Think about it. How often do we dwell on regrets or failures, replaying them in our minds as if we can rewrite history? Or, just as often, we cast our thoughts into the future, consumed by what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. Both rob us of the peace available right here and now. Consider the example of Florence Chadwick, a swimmer who in 1952 attempted to cross the 26-mile Catalina Channel in California. On the day of her swim, a thick fog set in, making it nearly impossible to see. Exhausted and disoriented, she gave up less than a mile from the finish line. Later, she admitted that the fog, not the distance, was her undoing. She lost sight of where she was in the moment. The lesson: when we focus too much on what's ahead or behind, we lose the clarity and strength needed to navigate the present. Lewis often encouraged people to focus on the next right thing, one step, one decision, one moment at a time. This principle can be seen in the lives of countless individuals who faced insurmountable odds but found peace by grounding themselves in the present. Take Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor who endured unimaginable suffering in Nazi concentration camps. In his book Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl wrote that those who survived were often those who could find purpose and hope in the smallest of moments: a kind word, a sliver of sunlight, a fleeting memory. When we anchor ourselves in the present, we begin to see life's beauty even in its messiness. Think of a child playing in the rain, not worrying about getting wet or catching cold, just laughing and living. That's the gift of the present. The peace we so often overlook while chasing a future that doesn't yet exist or mourning a past that can't be changed. Here is principle number 4: peace flourishes when we embrace humility. For Lewis, pride was one of the greatest barriers to inner peace. In Mere Christianity, he described pride as the great sin, the root of so much discontent and division. Why? Because pride isolates us. It pits us against others, fuels comparison, and makes us cling to an image of ourselves that can never be satisfied. Think about your own life. How often does pride sneak in, uninvited? Maybe it's the subtle comparison when scrolling through social media, the envy of a friend's success, or the defensiveness we feel when criticized. Pride tells us we must constantly prove our worth, yet it leaves us feeling empty and exhausted. History offers countless examples of how humility, not pride, leads to true peace. Consider Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. Despite immense pressure and criticism, Lincoln carried himself with remarkable humility. He was willing to admit mistakes, seek counsel, and even extend forgiveness to those who opposed him. It was this humility that helped unite a fractured nation and secure his place as one of history's most respected leaders. But humility isn't just about grand gestures, it's found in everyday choices. Imagine a heated argument with a loved one. Pride demands the last word, the final jab, the victory. Humility, on the other hand, seeks understanding over winning, connection over control. And in that surrender, we often find the peace we didn't know we needed. Lewis also saw humility as a gateway to gratitude. When we stop inflating our own importance, we become more aware of life's blessings. A sunset becomes more than a backdrop, it's a reminder of beauty beyond ourselves. A simple meal becomes a feast, a shared laugh a treasure. Humility allows us to see the world as it is, not as a stage for our ego. Imagine the weight lifted when we stop pretending we have all the answers, stop competing, and simply allow ourselves to be human. That's the paradox of humility. In lowering ourselves, we find peace rising within us. Here is principle number 5. Inner peace is sustained through love and connection. C.S. Lewis believed that love is the very essence of human existence and the key to finding tranquility within. But not just love as a fleeting emotion, rather, the active, selfless love that binds us to one another and to the divine. In the Four Loves, Lewis explores the different kinds of love: affection, friendship, romantic love, and charity. Of these, he regarded charity, unconditional, self-giving love, as the highest form. Why? Because it moves us beyond ourselves. It shifts our focus outward, dissolving the walls of isolation and fear that often fuel our inner unrest. Think about this: how often do we equate peace with solitude, imagining it as a quiet retreat far from the noise and demands of others? Yet Lewis suggests the opposite, that peace thrives in the messy, imperfect, deeply connected spaces of life. It's found in the forgiveness we offer a friend, the patience we extend to a stranger, the kindness we show without expecting anything in return. Take the story of Corrie ten Boom, a Dutch woman who survived the horrors of a Nazi concentration camp. After the war, she met one of the guards from her camp, a man who had caused her and countless others unimaginable suffering. In that moment, she had every reason to hold on to anger. But instead, she chose forgiveness. Extending her hand, she said, "I forgive you, brother," with all my heart. That act of love brought her a profound sense of peace, one that no hatred or revenge could ever have provided. This kind of love doesn't just transform relationships, it transforms us. Lewis believed that when we love selflessly, we align ourselves with the very nature of God, who is love itself. And in that alignment, we find a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that is steady, even in life's storms. But let's bring this closer to home. Consider how small acts of love can create ripples of peace in your daily life. A mother comforting her child after a bad dream. A neighbor offering a helping hand during a tough time. A teacher patiently guiding a struggling student. These aren't grand gestures, yet they carry immense power to heal and connect. They remind us that peace isn't found in isolation, but in the spaces where love is present. Lewis also believed that love, by its nature, requires vulnerability. To love is to risk being hurt, to open ourselves to the possibility of rejection or loss. And yet, he argued, the alternative is far worse. In The Four Loves, he writes, to love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything, and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one. Choosing love means embracing that vulnerability, not as a weakness but as a strength. It's in those moments of risk and openness that we grow. It's in those moments that we discover the resilience of the human spirit and the profound peace that comes from living authentically and connectedly. History offers another striking example: Martin Luther King Jr. During the Civil Rights Movement, King advocated for nonviolence and love, even in the face of brutal hatred and injustice. He often quoted Lewis' contemporaries, like Mahatma Gandhi, reinforcing the idea that love is the only force capable of transforming enemies into friends. His unwavering commitment to love, even under immense pressure, was a testament to its power to create lasting peace, not just for an individual but for entire communities. Lewis would likely agree that love is the thread that ties all the principles of peace together. Letting go of control, aligning our desires, living in the present, and embracing humility, all these principles lead us back to love. It's the wellspring from which all peace flows. And when we cultivate love, whether in our faith, our relationships, or our small everyday actions, we not only find peace for ourselves, but become beacons of it for the world around us. When we piece all of this together, a profound truth emerges. Peace isn't something we stumble upon, it's something we cultivate, one choice at a time. Each of Lewis's insights points us toward a life lived with purpose, anchored in trust, humility, presence, and love. But there's one final thread that holds it all together: the choice to act on these principles every day. Imagine your life if you truly embraced these ideas. Imagine releasing the burdens you've carried for so long, letting go of the need to control, freeing yourself from the endless chase of temporary goals, and finding joy in the present moment. Picture the calm that comes when you stop fighting the currents and allow life to carry you, trusting that there's a greater purpose at work. This isn't just a theory, it's a reality you can step into, starting now. But transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's in the small, consistent steps, the moments when you choose to forgive instead of hold a grudge, to be kind instead of retreat, to trust instead of fear. Peace is built in the quiet, unseen decisions that shape who we are and how we show up in the world. If this message resonates with you, let it take root. Let it inspire you to live differently, to seek a peace that's not dependent on life's circumstances but grounded in something eternal. Share these truths with someone who might need them today: a friend, a family member, or anyone searching for calm in the chaos. And if this journey toward peace has spoken to you, consider being part of this growing community. Subscribe to this channel and join others who are discovering the wisdom of C.S. Lewis and its power to transform lives. Together, let's create a space where these ideas can flourish, where questions can be asked, and where hope can be shared. Hit that subscribe button and help spread this message of peace and love to a world that needs it now more than ever.